Welcome, nature detectives. I'm Conrad Baker. I'm an outdoor educator with the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation at Letchworth State Park, and today I have a nature mystery for you. If you've spent any time outside in this time of year, you've noticed that the plants are all exploding with leaves, from the tiniest little flowers to the biggest, tallest trees. Everybody's sending out all their leaves and enjoying this summer sun. Some of these plants are of extreme interest to a lot of people. They really want to know what they are. And I think we can use our nature tools to identify one of these plants, figure out what it is, and how it helps us every single day. We'll need just one nature tool today, and that's our eyes. I'll show you the plant that caught my eye today right here. Now, this plant, I noticed right away, has a really distinctive number of leaves growing. We can count them right now. 1 and 2 and 3. 3 leaves growing close together. And that sets it apart from a lot of different plants in the forest, but not all of them. Some other plants will also have 3 leaves. So let's look closer. Second nature clue that a lot of people notice about this plant is where it's growing. Is this plant really, really tall, growing way over my head? Well, clearly not. I'm able to access it really easy. I'm able to get to it very easily. This plant is growing right on the forest floor. It's not very tall at all. In fact, if I was walking through here, it probably wouldn't even reach over my boot. The third nature clue that a lot of folks notice about this plant is the shape of its leaves. These leaves have a distinctive little sticky outy part. A scientist would call that a lobe, but I like to think of it as the thumb of a mitten. It reminds me of a mitten, like a little gloved hand, and those little mitten thumbs are pointing down, away from that central leaf. They're on those outer leaves to the right and left of the central leaf, and they're pointing down, away from the central leaf. Let's put all our nature clues together. We have a plant with 3 leaves. Those leaves have little mitten thumbs that are pointing away from the central leaf on the outer leaves. And the plant is growing really close to the ground, really on the ground. This must be poison ivy. Poison ivy is a famous plant. It's, of course, most famous for giving most people itchy rashes when they come in contact with this plant. The oil that's contained in poison ivy that gives most people that rash is called urushiol, fun science word. But the poison ivy does a lot other than just give us rashes. If we leave it alone and let it do its job in nature, poison ivy is a very beneficial, very helpful plant to have around. If you followed nature detectives closely over the past month, you'll remember that we visited this tree back in May. On May 4th, our nature mystery was this climbing, clinging, stringy rope-like plant right here. We figured out that this stringy plant is also poison ivy. Now, poison ivy can grow up the side of a tree or up the side of a wall or spread out over the forest floor like we saw it today. When it spreads out over the forest floor is how most people encounter it, but when it climbs up a tree like this, it can be a really important food source for a lot of animals, especially in the winter time. We can remember in May we talked about how a vine like this will eventually produce flowers, and if it's really happy, will produce berries from those flowers. And those berries will shrivel up like little white raisins and be food for lots of very beneficial animals in the woods, especially woodpeckers. Woodpeckers love to eat wood-boring insects, insects that dig into wood and can kill trees. We, of course, use trees and wood for all kinds of things, building sheds and barns and houses and warehouses and all kinds of things that we use on a daily basis. So they're very important to us. It's important to have woodpeckers around. It's important to have poison ivy around to feed those woodpeckers. If you really want to put your nature detective skills to the test, try to locate and identify some poison ivy in your neighborhood. It probably grows around you somewhere. And if you're able to identify it growing either up the side of a building or a tree, or spreading out over the ground with those 3 leaves growing close together that have the little mitten fingers on the outer leaves pointing away from the central leaf, then you can let your friends and family know that there's poison ivy doing an important nature job in that area, and they can serve it well by leaving it alone. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Nature Mystery. If you have any questions about poison ivy, please don't hesitate to put a comment in the comment section below the video. Share this video with your friends to put their nature detective skills to the test. And as always, like Letchworth State Park's Facebook page to stay tuned for more nature mysteries.